An accurate assessment would be, what if the Earth were to be suddenly misaligned? Well, it would definitely wobble into space, and all life on Earth would die. This failure to acknowledge that we all need to release sperm on Earth is just that need. This need is a need to keep your biological alignment in order. This need is further influenced by the dark region of space that we are currently in, which is what, for the most scholars will explain, is the Kali Yuga. The Kali Yuga is a state of negative energy that we are currently in. Excuse me. Which is not. The Kali Yuga is a state of negative energy that is constantly bombarding the earth, influencing and amplifying negative expressions of energy, which explains all the chaos and the hate in the world. Meanwhile, religion does not explain this, because to do so is also to confirm that energy is a force and a conscious balancing act. Meanwhile, there were gods here, and they left us to evolve. This explains why they can't answer our prayers. However, this conclusion also presents that energy is real, and pure energy is magic, and we do not need God to reproduce it, as we are angels ourselves. You see, being creations of advanced gods means that He gave this world to us, for us to evolve, and so He left. Or just a scientific approach is that we are an interstellar civilization, and that needs to mature on our own first. In this way, we will reconnect to the God force that is just one vibration away, within the same dimension that we currently exist in. This answers why we feel God, as He does nothing, but cannot within our hearts accept that which the brain knows is true. As He watches, He judges, He will not help, and we must evolve on our own. So I ask, does this satisfy the reason why innocent people die, and why extremists and heartless, dishonorable criminals are getting away with what they're doing? This means that anything negative that happens that is intentional starts to rack up karma debt financially. Therefore, your financial offerings to church just breaks you even in terms of karma. But as soon as you leave the church or mosque, all that positive energy that once surrounded you from the church and the people rapidly disappear. Also, if energy can account for all the natural disasters and calamity, this would also make some sense. However, if a magnetic factor were factored into the equation, then the result of the cosmic alignment and also the wobbling of the earth, which would be technologically correct if the pole shift goes well, then religion would have all the evidence that it needed, and so would science. Everyone needs to understand, because both sides refuse each other. This denial is killing us. As being the center of the universe was not enough, then the need to confirm the same God and deities have changed the same characteristics, and life stories is a tough riddle to crack. This science, which has 1 billion to 1 proof of telepathy, ESP, healing, and seeing the future, tell us that people that have had cancer been healed many times by dolphins in the sea. Yet for some reason we have today machines to measure chi, which is energy, aka our auras. So all of this information is evidence that God and energy are different but the same thing. As one is and the other manipulates it. Meaning that gods or even humans manipulate energy now, and energy is that can be manipulated, just like magic. With this frame of mind, one seriously needs to consider, if energy is negative and we're primitive in thought, and wanting, then God would need to try very hard to compensate for our differences. So what do you do when your children need to grow up? As it states in the New Testament that God would test the army of Satan with natural disasters, and a third of the army fell. This is allegory that translates into a world where innocent people die as well. How is it that 300 plus people that died in 2004 supersonic and Hurricane Katrina causing massive flooding upon inspection, one or more, or if you were to see the newspaper clippings of the features, which would be very biased, then as Nostradamus, I would have no choice but to say that the whole world got flooded, because that's all they could see is newspaper clippings of the future. This is also another validation by another scripture which I cannot validate as I am running out of time. I am not too sure, but I am willing to take an educated guess, and the 2 oil spills in the summer in America 2010 are caused by either shock waves from crustal movements and mostly by human error. However, if these movements are the possible cause, then the correct cross-referencing of religious texts, then this would be crustal movements and the destruction of all countries with infrastructures that the 2012 pole shift will bring. Furthermore, the phenomenon that of the solar flares from our own sun are generated by distress from the proximity to the galactic center. This process and its proximity constantly wobbles, or rather agitates, the entire solar system. This agitation is a huge indifference between the 2 extreme polarities between negative energy, the Kali Yuga state, and the golden age of Satya Yuga, or positive higher vibrational states. Remember, positive energy or higher vibrational energy, otherwise symbolically known as heaven being from above, artistically means higher vibrations. Also, a secret verse revealed from Jesus of Christ is, as it is above, so be it below. This translates as the higher dimensions converging onto the 3rd dimensional plane. So the higher dimensions converging onto the 3rd dimensional plane, or what the Hopi Indians disguise as the 4th coming into the 5th world. or the transition that the third dimension permanently merges into the fourth via default by being inside the fifth dimensions. It's like being a bench player and never playing. So the fourth dimension basically is access to the higher realms, is the beginning state, and it's the experimental state where realities are stable to permit molecules to be manipulated. When you go into the higher fifth and sixth dimensions, there's different parameters, and the acceptance of into those realms are much higher. So for 2,000 years, we all have been inhibited by the deactivation of all the power grids in the world. In fact, actually what also is happening is that the fourth dimension is merging into the fifth permanently, and the fifth into the sixth. This later transition will occur within 1,000 years, hence prophesies primitive energy war again. We'll go to war again. Coincidentally, they promised 1,000 years of peace. But then what? Why stop at 1,000? Why not 100? Or if God is truly supreme, why not forever? Once again, ancient astronomy must be applied. So like all science, we look to the stars, and technology will show that human evolution will once again hit a stepping stone or an extinction scenario. So either we are forced to leave and let the dolphins take the ladder, or do what the astronaut forefathers did with us and tinker with dolphin genetics and evolve us by evolving them by millions of years, something that our cousins the Martians did, or import the dolphins, our cousins, to another solar system, which is what God did to us, from taking us from the Garden of Evil as punishment. But it wasn't punishment. It was war. And in this way, continue the great chain of life, and in this method expand our genetic influence and power in this sector of the galaxy, as in fact our genetic influence spans 5 galaxies. And in the Bible it says that the angels came from a vast and infinite civilization, millions of them. How in the hell do tiny angels create 36-foot hybrid humans unless crossbreeding is possible? So this battle of Armageddon is really humanity's battle to keep Earth and all of its inhabitants as worthy stewards. As Armageddon translates from means change. Let me explain. For the curious, Megiddo is not the place of battle. It is merely symbolic as crossroads, which in ancient days was used for traveling. This is why nobody, it's also called this, I think it was called the Silk Road. This is why nobody has a definite answer to the subject. Therefore, Armageddon into Revelations into Apocalypse, which translate together as the battle to change for the unveiling. Also the apocalypse of heaven, or the merging of the higher dimensions. An apocalypse in Greek is lifting of the veil or revelations, is a disclosure of something hidden from the majority of mankind in an era dominated by falsehood and misconceptions, much to what I was referencing to the system, and that things need to change. Q20 and Q21, the system is the brain programmed behavior and the promise of the frontal lobe.